Welcome to Marketing Demystified, the podcast that connects the dots for business leaders to drive revenue through effective marketing strategy. We chat with marketing experts on different topics that will help you ramp up your revenue. We stream live on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, and you can listen to us on your favorite podcast platforms. Marketing Demystified, the podcast, is presented to you by GrowGetter, your partner in growth marketing. And here's today's episode.
Hello, everyone. Are you ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered with actionable tips to transform your marketing game? You're in the right place. Welcome to Marketing Demystified. I'm your host, Jen Mancusi, CEO and co-founder of GrowGetter, your growth marketing partner. More than a decade ago, maybe a decade is even underestimating it, marketers had to adapt to a big, scary, exciting, transformative new technology called social media. We had to forget everything we knew about marketing. Suddenly, it's all about influencer marketing, algorithms, and trends. And now, with the advent of AI out in the world, many of us are experiencing a sense of deja vu. That's why we're excited about today's guest, Mark Schaefer, a marketing expert, author, business consultant, and educator who wrote the first book on influencer marketing, Return on Influence. In his latest book, Audacious, How Humans Win in an AI Marketing World, he has some bold advice for marketers. Stay human. We wanted to ask Mark, how can we play by AI's rules and still play to our human strengths? And that's exactly what we'll discuss today. So I'm so excited to bring you Mark Schaefer. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jen. It's great to see you.
So good to see you again. I'm really excited to talk about your new book because we are having a little bit of a deja vu at the moment, and marketers are really trying to find their way on where's the right place for AI in marketing?
Yeah, it's something I've been really thinking about a lot. And that's really why I wrote the book. I've written 12 books, and it might surprise you to know that I don't have a strategy to write books. I only write a book when I see a problem that people are struggling with. And I think the problem that we're all looking at today is, where do we fit? I mean, where are we going to land in this AI dominant world? And, I'm the kind of person, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I want to look at things in a realistic way. And that led me to explore the ideas of, where are humans going to thrive in this marketing world? And that developed into Audacious.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're going to get into it today. So now I want to start with kind of exploring the shifts that are happening and some of the shifts that we're seeing. Your book opens with talking about a drone show at South by Southwest that stopped everyone in their tracks, and people are literally leaving their meals to go watch it. And you talk about how a lot of marketing today happens through customers telling other customers about brands rather than through traditional advertising. This feels very old school to me, right? This is like OG marketing. But I'm curious what you think is driving the shift towards experiential and word of mouth marketing, and how can we, how should we be thinking about that today?
Well, what I want to really explore is, where are the pieces of marketing? What are the aspects of marketing where humans will continue to thrive? And so I think it gets down to four main areas. Personal branding, because we have to mean something to stand out in this world. And no matter what happens with AI, we're always going to turn to humans to help us navigate this world and find truth. Number two would be brand communities. And someone asked me one time, well, what's the role of AI in a brand community? And I can't think of one other than maybe some administrative tasks. But who wants a bot in a human community? The third one, as you mentioned, is experiences, experiential marketing that lead to word of mouth marketing, to create something so interesting, so worthy that people want to talk about you. We may not believe marketing and advertising, but we believe each other. It is the most effective, the most pure, the most unadulterated type of marketing we can have, word of mouth marketing. And that is all human, right? It's not coming from bots, it's coming from human. And then the last one, the fourth one, and this is the one I really explore in the Audacious book, is what I call transcendent content. We're living in this world where AI is just creating content at in an unimaginable pace, on an unimaginable scale. Where are we going to thrive? Where are we going to fit? And I think there is a place for us, but we have to think about content in some radically new ways.
I want to stick there for a second, because I think that's really important. We can maybe work backwards through the four, but since
Yeah.
it's the last thing you said, I think the words that you use, this concept of transcendent content, I think is really interesting, because there is a lot of content out there that's being generated by AI. There are a lot of people out there that are generating content using AI and thinking that's going to be a marketing strategy in and of itself. But if you're thinking about creating content that's going to perform, this concept of it transcending what's being generated is such a powerful kind of cornerstone to look to say, okay, is this going to rise above all of the AI generated stuff that's out there? And so what kinds of content do you think is going to transcend, or is currently? Do you have any examples that you could share?
Yeah, well, let's get into a little bit of the framework of the book. You mentioned this drone show, which sort of was the spark behind the beginning of the book. So, I mean, drone shows are pretty common today. We see them at sporting events or maybe music festivals. But 4 or 5 years ago, when I first saw this drone show, I was at dinner with friends and at a very nice restaurant in Austin. And it was the end of the long day at South by Southwest. And suddenly people quietly started to get up and leave the restaurant. And I turned around and looked out the window over my shoulder, and people were out standing on the street. So I looked at my friends. We shrugged our shoulders. We left our hot food and cold drinks to go stand out on the street. Saw this drone show, which was a story promoting a new television series. And at the end of the show, there was a QR code in the sky. And people were taking pictures of this QR code and sharing it with their friends all over the world. And this haunted me because I've been writing about and talking about rising above the noise. And we have more noise in this world than ever. And I thought, if someone came to me and said, Mark, I want you to create a story or a marketing campaign so great, people would leave their food in a restaurant to go see it, could you do it? And the answer was no. So I got curious. Who did this? How did they do it? This was audacious. This was transcendent. And so I found out who did it, and it ended up being some people that I knew at a very acclaimed agency in New York called Giant Spoon. I called up the president of Giant Spoon, and I said, look, I want to come into your offices. I want to learn about everything that you do. I want to sit in your meetings. I want you to understand all your secrets. I want to understand your playbook, and I want to put all those ideas into a book. What do you think? And he said, absolutely. And that was the beginning of a 2-year journey to look at the greatest concepts, to interview the greatest creatives in the world, to see, are there lessons that any of us can use to stand out in this world filled with AI slop? And there is a pattern. And it kind of goes like this. We can go as deep into it as you like, but basically it's this. What is marketing or advertising at its core? It is telling a story. So, in some way, to rise above the noise, you have got to create something disruptive that grabs people and demands attention. You have to refuse to be ignored. So, what is it? So there's three phases, right? You have the story. So you have to disrupt the story. It's where you tell the story. So you have to tell the story in a new place. And then it's who's telling the story. So you disrupt the storyteller. Now, one clever little example is over my shoulder here. I don't know if everybody can see it, but there's a copy of my book, and it's an unusual cover because the only thing on the cover is a QR code. Now, here's what happens. I uploaded the book to AI, and an AI is continuously creating abstract images based on the stories in the book. And when you hover over the cover of the book changes continuously. It's an infinity cover. It's never been done before. Now, let's break this down. I have changed the way a story is told. I have changed where the story is told. It's on a book cover. I've changed who's telling the story. There's no human involved. There's no video. The book cover is telling a story. And that makes it conversational. People are going to talk about this cover. They're going to share this cover. It's kind of fun. I get the statistics about like how many people are using this QR code and hovering over the cover, and people are doing it multiple times. I'm finding out that children are playing with the cover of the book.
I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Really cool.
That's fun.
Really
It's
cool.
endless fun. It's endless fun.
Yeah.
But the idea is it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be a stunt. It doesn't have to be expensive. There are examples in the book of big companies, small companies, big budgets, small budgets, no budget, nonprofits, universities. But you have to be mindful, and you have to be intentional about, you just can't be competent. If you are doing competent work, AI is going to eat you alive because AI is competent. It's excellent. It's more than competent. So you've got to find a way to dig down deep and disrupt.
That's a really interesting way to put it too. That if you're doing competent work, it's not enough anymore.
It's not enough.
That's the thing you can't compete with. Is AI is perfectly fine. Is doing a good enough job. And, I'm a big proponent of experimentation in marketing and trying new things. And if you have a really solid foundation of, being data driven and tracking success, then it gives you a lot of freedom to play and to try new things and to experiment. And, you define this, as being audacious. And so I'm noticing in the framework that you're talking about, right? Story, the place, and the who's telling the story, and these things that we have to disrupt in order to really get interest and curiosity and spark some attention. You're not talking about like tell everybody all of the things about your product or tell everybody all of the little finite details of features and functionality of your offerings. It's about kind of standing out. And so, I'd love to talk more about the concept of being audacious and what that actually means. Like, why is audacity the answer to breaking through?
Yeah. I think it suggests that branding is more important than ever.
Yeah.
And you talk about the importance of performance marketing. And it is important. It's really important. And look, I've been in marketing a long time, and I started in the days when you couldn't measure anything. And now we can, when it comes to advertising and SEO, we can measure almost everything. And that's great. But here's the challenge. We have over-indexed on performance marketing. And we have allowed ourselves to become boring, right? We are now wedded to algorithms. We want to play it safe, and we haven't looked up to see how the world is really working. And I think today we can go down a deep rabbit hole on this. Branding is more important than ever, especially when it comes to AI. So let me just hit on two important topics and why branding is more important than ever. Number one, I actually wrote another book last year. It was a crazy, crazy thing. I had this big research project land in my lap, and it was this research project I participated in. Was they brought together 300 futurists, and to answer this question, how will AI change humanity by the year 2035? And they actually came to some consensus. So I wrote this book called How AI Changes Your Customers. Now, one of the big conclusions was this: AI is becoming a trusted decision maker. I state in the book that today we're all in the diaper business. What do I mean by that? I have a beautiful new grandchild. He is an expert pooper. Now, if you want to, he is the end user of the diapers, but he is not the decision maker. So to get to that end user, you've got to market to the decision maker. Today, humans are abdicating a lot of their decision making to AI, right? I just recently went on a vacation to Paris. I had AI plan the whole trip. I didn't see an ad. There wasn't any branded content. SEO didn't matter. Plan the whole trip, right? Except I said, I want to fly this airline. I want to stay at these hotels because the brand was an override to AI. When you get people to care, AI doesn't matter. If you mean something to them, that is an override. And that's why, keep doing your performance marketing, but branding being not just top of mind, but top of heart is really important in this AI world. And it's going to be increasingly important. That's point number one. Here's point number two. So I saw this thing where AI was creating music similar like to Bruce Springsteen. We see this stuff all the time, right? You know, it's AI actors and AI writers and AI writing songs. Well, that might be a curiosity, but I'm only going to pay my money to see Bruce Springsteen, the boss, in concert, a live human being. Why? Because he means something to me. And no matter what happens in the AI world, art will persist. We will still love our favorite authors, our favorite actors, our favorite musicians, because they interpret the human experience. That's what art is about. Now, we need to push ourselves so that our marketing is at that level. It's a crazy new way to think about things. But let me give you just a little example. I wrote this blog post a few weeks ago where I had the greatest achievement, one of the greatest achievements of my career. I did 5 hours of workshops at McKinsey. McKinsey is my favorite company. They're like the smartest people in the world. Here I am at McKinsey. It's the end of the day. I'm tired. I'm standing on the 64th floor of the World Trade Center, watching the sun set on Manhattan, and I felt depressed. Why? Isn't that weird? Because I felt like I was at the top of the mountain. Everything sort of looked downhill from there. Now, I wrote a blog post about this, which was kind of an unusual blog post. This was one of the most popular blog posts I ever wrote. Why? Because I was telling my story. I was interpreting this human experience that connected with people. I don't care about AI because people care about me. I mean something to them. I've created content consistently for 15 or 16 years. I've blogged every week, like over 1,000 weeks in a row. I had a podcast for 13 years, never missed an episode. I've written 12 books. I've showed up and I mean something to people. So art doesn't necessarily mean making a painting. It means creating this emotional connection. That's what branding is all about, right? It's meaning something. It's creating an emotional expectation. When I hear your name, it means something to me. And that is going to be more important than ever.
I couldn't agree with you more on the concept of how brand needs to transcend. And I guess I find it challenging. I guess how do you talk to non-marketers about that importance? Because I'm sitting here nodding along like,
Yeah.
yes, we've been talking about this. Brand is the ticket, but it's the thing that people invest in less and less because of exactly what you were saying earlier. We used to not be able to track anything. And
Yeah.
so actually we did quite a good job, I think, in brand when we couldn't
Yeah.
track anything.
Right.
Then all of a sudden we could see what websites you've been on and the entire journey from here to there and the ROI and the ROAS and all these metrics that now we can track. And we said we need to invest in things that we can track. And brand is harder. It's not impossible to track, but it's harder.
Yeah.
And so we stopped investing in it. But the companies and the brands that continue to invest perform the things they can measure perform better. It seems obvious to me. It seems like such a clear connection. We see evidence of it over and over and over again with the biggest brands in the world, yet we're still talking about benchmarks. What's the benchmark for this? What should we be doing? What should our, LinkedIn performance look like or our email open rates look like? But it's so unique to you as a brand because how people the place that you kind of take up in the minds of your potential buyers or the just your audience is different. Every brand is different. Every company is different. If you're a brand new B2B tech startup, you can't look at what, Nike is doing and say, well, how do I get to that level, right? There's so much more sort of history and investment there. And what really solidified it for me was when you said that the brand will transcend AI when you're searching, because I've had that same experience of like, I am going to look to AI for recommendations on. I did the same thing with a trip. I planned a trip using AI. I've used it for my skincare routine, but I said, these are the brands I like. Help me choose the products. Help me figure out what timing. Am I missing something? You can make some other recommendations for me if you think my brands are no good. But ultimately, like I did input that, that brand loyalty piece is not going away.
Yeah, so to answer your question, by the way, your skincare routine is working beautifully. And if you could send me your list of products, I'd appreciate it because it's not working for me.
We can talk more about that after the show.
To answer your question, sometimes the key word that is always a trigger word for me is convince. If you say, how do I convince a business or a leader? That is a trigger word. Like if you need to convince them, it probably isn't going to happen. Now, if you are a business leader, look, today you have got to be open-minded. You have got to be urgent in your ability to change and adapt and understand. Now, when I work with business leaders, I say, look, Mark, show me the way. take me this way. I understand we might not be able to measure everything, but I know this is what we need to do. Then we're going to be able to work. And so the way I position branding versus performance marketing is, first, I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of marketing. So marketing creates customers. That's job one. But you could do that a couple of ways. And those ways might differ based on the stage of the business. So performance marketing, if you're a startup, if you need to fill the top of the funnel, maybe performance marketing is where you need to be. If you're Nike, you're less concerned about Facebook ads and coupons, right? You need to build the brand. That is what is going to sustain your growth and move you away from the competition over time. And the story that I tell that seems to really resonate with people is I compare Gatorade with Powerade. So this is a case study that I wrote up in one of my books, where Gatorade has 80% of this $8 billion sports drink market. 80%. It's unimaginable success. And if you talk to like true athletes, they'll say, "Oh, I would never drink Powerade." So no matter what Powerade does, Gatorade means something so powerful that it just has separated itself from the competition. Now, Powerade, they still need Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO, coupons, fighting for shelf space. When you go into a store, Gatorade is going to have more shelf space, and they charge at least 25% more for their product. And the story that I tell, in America, there's this tradition at the end of an important football game, American football game. The winning team, the players will sneak up on the coach and dump the barrel of Gatorade over the coach. And it's something that's always captured on TV. It's called the Gatorade bath. Well, last year during the college football playoffs, one of the playoff games was actually sponsored by Powerade. And the players snuck up on the coach with the blue Powerade vat. And here's what the TV announcer said: "Here comes the Gatorade bath." Gatorade is so embedded in sports and performance and victory. Even when they saw Powerade, they couldn't say the word. Now, some small businesses might say, what's the ROI of this branding effort? What's the ROI of sponsoring this? What's the ROI of the Gatorade bath? How do you measure? Does that sell more Gatorade? Can you measure that? No, you cannot. But that doesn't mean you don't do it, because the only thing Gatorade had, the only advantage Gatorade has is their brand. Brand is everything. Powerade is owned by Coca-Cola. They could copy every single thing that Gatorade does. They could copy the flavors. They could copy the ingredients. The only thing they have that led to 80% market share is their brand. You can ignore that if you want to, but I wouldn't.
I wouldn't either. And fun fact, you can actually bet on the color of the Gatorade that they're going to pour on their coaches. It's maybe even like it's just as big of a bet as who's going to win the game in some of the gambling circles. So if you're into that, maybe you can bet on if it's going to be orange or red Gatorade next time. But I think it's a great example, and it's when companies sort of move from product branding to lifestyle branding, right? That's transcending, like you were talking about, transcending the product and the sales goals. It is creating customers. You can guarantee it's creating customers, but there maybe isn't a one-to-one attribution for it. And I think, and there's so many great examples of this. There's
Oh,
people
absolutely.
tattooing Traeger on
Right. I mean,
themselves.
it's how the world works,
Yes,
really.
yes. But I think it's hard for companies that are not Pepsi or Nike or like these huge kind of consumer brands to connect the dots with what that means for your business. I'm ABC Services Company, right? I'm a small business, I'm doing $10 million in revenue a year. What does Gatorade have to do with me? But it's the same principles
It
and
is.
the same learnings.
It is. And in fact, I think it's more important
Mm-hmm.
because, on a local level, chances are the brand is the person. The
Mm-hmm.
brand is the owner, it's the founder, it's the person who is actually meeting with the customers at the pizza place, at the insurance agency, at the plumbing company. And so that is an exceptional opportunity to create that emotional connection, to create meaning. I mean, people, when you get right down to it, they're not going to look at this insurance policy and that insurance policy. They want to do business with a person they can trust.
Mm-hmm.
They want to do business with a person being recommended by their family, by their neighbors, right? Whenever you need an electrician or a plumber, it's overwhelming to see all the listings. You're going to turn to a friend. You're going to turn to, I recently bought a car off a local dealership because I wasn't happy with the car dealership and the service I was getting at one place. And this family member said, "Oh, you need to try the Audi dealership." And she went on and on and on about how wonderful the dealership was, how great their service was. I changed car brands
Mm.
based on the enthusiasm of a family member.
Yeah, I want to talk about this a little bit more because you talk about, well, I mean, I think people know that you follow people, right, versus brands. Most
Yeah.
cases, whether you're looking at social media or
Mhm.
there's that human connection, and you literally wrote the book on influencer marketing, and you've talked about different types of influencers like celebrities, content creators, advocates, or just in general, people talking about your brand and telling the story versus the brand telling the story. I want to talk a little bit about, this concept of turning your own employees into the brand storytellers. And can you talk a little bit more about the concept of employee advocacy and the untapped opportunity that's there?
Well, we have to be careful with this
Okay.
because what I see in some companies, there's a trend to say, there's a trend to gamify it,
Mm.
to say, "Oh, look, employees, we have this new press release, we have this new announcement, and we need to get this out into the world. So if you post this on your social media accounts, you'll win a t-shirt," or something like that.
Mm.
Well, I think this is inauthentic. It really puts undue pressure on employees, and I don't like that at all. I don't like dashboards of, and gamifying it. But here's what I do like. So, um, I was involved years ago beginning a program at Cisco. It's the big tech company in Silicon Valley. And they came to me and they said, "Look, we can't get enough great people to work at our company. Everybody wants to work for Apple or they want to work for Google because they're so cool. We're cool, but we could not possibly have enough advertising dollars in the world to change people's minds that would make Cisco look cooler than Apple. Those stories have to come from our employees. We have to turn our employees into influencers." So we created a program to help people build their personal brand. So it's not just about, hey, promote the company. It's we're going to give you a new skill.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to teach you how to be a storyteller, how to create content, how to build an audience. And oh, by the way, we're going to take the resources of the company and surround you to help you do that, because we know nobody listens to us, but they're going to listen to you. So
Mm-hmm.
let's redirect our marketing dollars to you. So this started paying off. People started creating content. They started creating videos or blogging or podcasts. We had examples where there was one vice president, his blog became so popular, he started being featured in Harvard Business Review. There was a young woman, an executive in India. Her content became so popular, she started being invited as a speaker at big industry conferences. Today, there was an article about a year ago. The CEO of Cisco is saying, we are going to create 84,000 influencers in our company. Now, that's the way to do it, is to make it a partnership. And this can be with small businesses too. I work with a small consumer product company in San Antonio, and they went to even the hourly people working on the floor, and they said, would you like to help us with our marketing? And they said, well, I could do that. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. I love this company. I believe in this company. And we created like a social media club to teach people how to create content and to have celebrations when people hit milestones, and just to make it fun and just reward people for helping the company. And so that's what I believe in, is when it's authentic, when it's real, when there's a mutual benefit, not just a company trying to take advantage of people.
Yeah. And I think that giving them the tools is such a key part of that.
100%.
A lot of people I speak to about this sort of thing are like, I wish I could post on LinkedIn more, or I wish I could write a blog article or a LinkedIn article, but I just don't, I don't know what to say. Like, how do you figure out what to say? And sometimes they just need, like what you described, like social media club. That's a great idea. Just
Yeah.
get a bunch of people together regularly, sharing ideas and encouraging each other, because I think what most people lack when it comes to, posting more regularly on social media or just engaging online and creating content is just the confidence to do it. Everybody's got a unique take on something. Everybody has unique experiences. The thing I'm always telling people is, just if you have an idea, just don't think about it, just post it, right? You can do really well planned out, really well thought out content. And sometimes that stuff's going to fall flat. And the stuff that you just do off the cuff is the stuff that performs. So don't overthink it.
Right.
Just, and so creating an environment where people have those resources, they have a little bit of training, they understand how the algorithms work or something, and giving them that support to say, hey, we're going to help you along this journey. It's actually going to benefit you and us together, because those skills are transferable. If you're not at this job forever, you're going to be, you're going to carry your personal brand with you. So we're investing in you as a person. I love that approach, and not making it about whoever shares our press release the most is going to get points or something, which actually I haven't seen a lot of. So it was interesting to hear you talk about, but I could see how that would not really work as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are companies that actually like create those programs. And it's
So
just
interesting.
like really icky to me. And
Yeah.
just to build on your point, I work with a I guess they're probably they're definitely a Fortune 500 company. They might be a Fortune 100 company. And they built this sort of internal influencer program, and they actually hired a professional editor to teach them how to create better stories. So it was really investing in the employees and making them more confident, helping them have more fun, because they had an editor to help coach them along the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great to give people that additional support. And I'm just a big believer. If you're an employee at a company, certainly like talk to your teams and ask about this sort of stuff. But if you're a founder, this should be a no-brainer. You should be the biggest voice for your business. I think it was maybe like 10 years ago, I was in a job interview and somebody asked me like, what brand, right, do you think has done a really good job with their marketing? And I talked about Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx, and she very famously did not do any advertising to grow her business, but everybody knows who she is. Everybody knows the founder, and that human being and her reason for being, her reason for creating the product is what connected with women and her customers. Of course, baseline, you got to have a good product. Let's make sure the product is good, but that's how you build a brand and build awareness. And it wasn't about the logo or even the story. It was her story. It was a human story that connected people to that brand. And that carries through, that
Basically,
to
in the story you just told, it summarizes like my entire marketing philosophy. It really does because the increasingly, so what is a brand? It's an emotional connection. It means something. And increasingly that meaning is a person,
Yes.
right? It's not because of the color of the clothes. It's not because I know that brand is not cheap, right? So
Nope.
people aren't saying, oh, I got a coupon, I'm going to go buy Spanx, right? It's because that person means something. And increasingly we see that the emotional connection is not because it is lemon fresh or because it cleans better or because it's cheaper. It's because I believe in this person. I connect with that person. I feel like they're my friend. I trust them. A brand is trust. And it's just as you said, you can't fall in love with a logo.
No.
You can't fall in love with a website, but you can fall in love with a person and say, I believe in Sarah. I belong to that brand.
Yeah. Yeah. If you see yourself there, you see yourself in it, right?
Right.
And you relate to the human as opposed to the
Great
company.
story, Jen.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about measuring. I know we did slam the the metrics a little bit, as we should. But there is you know, there are some ways to measure when things are working. Can we talk a little bit about your marketing measurement framework and what your I talk a lot about like metrics that matter. You can measure a million things. Not all of them matter. Most of them don't actually. So there's only a few metrics that I think actually matter, and they're probably different for every company. So I'm curious about your marketing measurement framework and sort of what metrics matter for you.
Oh, that is such an interesting question. And so, I mean, this might surprise you, but really, and I'm probably a unique case in some ways, but the only measure that matters to me, the only metric that matters to me is subscriptions to my content. And I think, look, revenue is important, but I have a business, and sometimes the revenue is up, and sometimes the revenue is down, and there are different factors. I mean, like when the pandemic hit, my revenue went to just about zero. That was not a function of my marketing. But the thing that but also during the pandemic, the subscriptions to my blog tripled because I adjusted and I pivoted, right? So it showed I was still relevant. I was still doing a new job. I was still gaining new fans. I think probably one of the worst metrics today, and might shock a lot of people, is web traffic. Web traffic is just so unreliable. It's so unpredictable. And that has been the heartbeat of so many businesses today. And it's just, boy, I just gave up on it. I just gave up on it. There was a period, Jen, where like the traffic to my website just dropped off a cliff. I hired 3 different specialists to try to figure out what the heck happened.
Mm.
And it ended up being some Google algorithm thing.
Yeah.
Same thing happened with my podcast. All of a sudden, there was this dip. Well, Apple changed the way they measured downloads. It was not a function of my ability, not a function of my marketing, not a function of my brand awareness or success. It was arbitrary almost. And so the only thing I can really count on is if people are subscribing to my blog or my podcast, that shows I'm connecting. That shows I mean something. And that is a leading indicator to sales and growth. Because when people subscribe to you in a virtual way, they're raising their hand saying, I believe in you. And if you want to talk about your workshops, your books, being at your efforts as a keynote speaker, if you want to talk about that once in a while, that's okay. Because you can market to me because I believe in you and you're creating value to me. So as long as those subscriptions are going up, I'm doing a good job. It's really the only thing I can count on right now.
I mean, you said the magic words for me, which is creating value.
Yeah.
Marketing should be creating value and not asking for anything. Just add value and people will trust you and will come to you when they're ready. The other thing we talk about quite often is how like 90% of your buyers aren't in the market to buy right now.
Yeah.
So you have to set up a program, a system for adding value when they don't have money to spend or they don't need what you have to offer. Just establishing that connection over time. I just had this conversation today, about a company that they sell sort of a project by project type service. And they're like, we want to increase the number of projects with our biggest client, but they're afraid to email them. I'm like, you can't be. That's the way you stay top of mind. And as you said, top of heart. So,
Yeah.
to add value on a regular basis even when they're not paying you, value even when they're not paying you, then they'll come to you first.
One of my favorite stories is, I've been blogging for years and years and years. And a couple years ago, this person wrote me a nice email and he said, hey, I just want to let you know, I've been reading your blog for 4 years. And because I've been reading your blog, this convinced me to buy your new book. And I just wanted to let you know, this is the best business book I've read in the last 10 years. And it was signed, person signed his name, and his title was Chief Marketing Officer, GE Life Sciences.
Wow.
Now, I didn't know he was out there.
Yeah.
But I was adding value year after year after year. So he was reading my blog, getting this value for 4 years. And then he bought a book. So I made $5. Now, 3 years later, he said, Mark, I am reorganizing my content marketing organization. I want to hire you as a consultant to come and help me. Now, I didn't bid on the job. I didn't have to negotiate a contract. I had built that trust with him. And if you're keeping track, that's like 7 years from when he first subscribed to the blog to when he hired me. And it was my biggest consulting contract of the year. But I was top of mind and top of heart. So when there was an opportunity for him to hire me, I'm the one he turned to because I had built that authority, the presence, the reputation, and the trust.
Yeah, I love that story. That's the great example of, patience. And I think sometimes stories like that might scare people like, oh, you mean I got to wait 7 years for my marketing to work? No. But it builds over time. And there are definitely there's going to be short-term wins, but paying attention to those leading indicators that are going to lead to those longer term, everybody wants repeatable revenue, right? Predictable, repeatable revenue. And that consistency of adding value is the ticket. That's the trick. It's not your ad spend or your lead generation numbers. It's, that consistency and adding value.
Yeah, I think just to be you're just totally honest and maybe harsh, I don't think you have a choice. I mean, AI is gonna run everything.
Yes.
But you can create meaning.
Mhm.
You can, like Sarah Blakely, that's not AI.
Right.
That can never be AI.
AI could never. Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
And so it's just like even the companies like an engineering company or whatever kind of company that uh you know y- the, look your competitors, they're going to be churning out AI content like crazy, right?
Yeah.
The world is overrun by AI slop. You know what? Me personally, I'm not concerned. I don't care. Just be more dull. My
Yeah.
competitors are going to, it's a pandemic of dull.
Yeah.
AI is a pandemic of dull.
Yeah.
And AI could be very, very good, but I have no competition. There's
Right.
only one me. And I've connected with people in a way where they want to learn from me. That's why you invited me to your show. It
Yep.
wasn't because of anything I did with AI. It wasn't because of Facebook ads.
No.
It's because over time, I mean, you've been following me for years and years and years. You say, this is a guy I trust. He can add value on my show.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm curious your take on where AI does fit, if anywhere, in marketing, right? Like there's so many AI marketing tools available. Some are really interesting, and not just AI marketing tools, but just AI tools for efficiency or for project management. I guess, as an audacious marketer that wants to free up their headspace to focus on being bold and creative, what is the role of AI? Where can it actually add value?
That's a massive question. But let me just answer succinctly in two ways. I think there's a lot of parallels between where AI is now and where social media was, 15 or 16 years ago. The beginning of social media, there were all these new tools, hundreds and hundreds of new tools to create content and to connect and to measure. And eventually, and we had to learn. We had to learn all these new tools. And every single day, it was a new tool. And it ended up being thousands and thousands of these things. Well, eventually, it all became simplified. It all became consolidated. And now we can turn to one or two places and kind of get everything done. And, I feel that same, excuse me, that same sort of frenzy today. A few moments ago, an hour, I think, before I got on this interview with you, I was talking to a guy in London. He said, "Oh, I just built this bot that's assessing all the SEO on my website and correcting it." I thought, "Oh my gosh, I wish I could do that." Now, does that mean we need to do it? Well, maybe in this moment, but here's what's going to happen. Same thing that happened with social media. It's all going to consolidate. Instead of going to AI is going to come to us. And we're not going to wake up one day and say, "Oh my God, the world is artificially intelligent." We're going to wake up and say, "Wow, things are just a little bit easier right now. And it's faster and it's more personal. And this is going to be embedded in all the tools that we use." That's number one. Number two is it can be depressing to think about, oh my gosh, all these things that I used to really enjoy doing and these skills that I've built up being taken over by AI. And so give yourself a day to be depressed and then look at AI and think about how can AI make me a more creative person, a bolder person, a marketing professional that can have more impact? How can it make me bigger and better than I am today? It's like putting on like a superhero suit or something, right?
Mm.
And it's just limitless how it can make you better, more effective, how it can save you time. And you talked about people having these creative blocks. Well, AI can help with all that. Or maybe people are afraid. AI can help you with that. I used AI as an editor on my last book because my human editor, she wasn't available. So I said, oh,
Mm.
I'll try AI. And I told the AI, here's my book. Now, don't be nice to me. Don't say, oh, Mark, this is wonderful. I want you to be mean. Tear me to pieces because I want this to be a great book. It was so mean. I had to tell it to stop. It was like really hurting my feelings. So, I mean, AI can, it's just the only thing that is limiting us right now is our imagination.
Yeah, yeah. A little trick if your AI is too nice to you. I'm a big fan. OpenAI has a GPT called Monday, and Monday is a little bit sassy and rude, and I almost always am using Monday. So
Yeah.
there's a trick for you, but I love it. I'm a big fan of whether it's in your actual marketing tactics and execution that you're experimental, or in the usage of AI. Like, there's so many things out there. I think it is really overwhelming right now. It's hard to know what direction to go in. I am in a constant state of just like playing with it. Let's try it. Let's see what this is.
And
No,
you need to. That's
yeah.
an important lesson that, especially with business leaders, there's
Mhm.
a traditional culture where you delegate stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
And you can't delegate this. You've got to experiment because your job as a leader you don't have to be the expert. You don't have to have all the answers to the questions, but you have to have the right questions. And you're not going to know the right questions unless you know what this stuff can do.
Yeah.
So roll up your sleeves and experiment every day and
Mhm.
push the limits so you know how to challenge your team,
Yeah.
so you know the right questions to ask about how this can help your business.
Absolutely. And also so you can see the evolution over time.
Mhm.
Because I hear a lot of people saying, I'm not going to try that. I hear it's not ready. Well, what does that mean? Like, when it's not ready, what does that mean? And what would ready look like?
Mhm.
I'm not like, I don't like when AI creates content, because as you were talking about, like, it's competent at best.
Mhm.
It's boring. It doesn't have a unique perspective. It's not particularly useful. Like, so creating content is a no for me. There's a lot of other like efficiency tools that I want to try them out. And sometimes I do. And I'm like, this isn't ready, but I know exactly why. I can articulate why it's not ready for me, and then maybe I'll try it again in a year and see if it's better,
Right.
or, but there's a lot of pressure for marketers in general. It's like, don't stray from the basics, right? Don't stray from what works, but also make sure you're in the metaverse, because everybody's in the metaverse, right? Like, that came and went, right? But
Yeah.
there's so much
Oh,
pressure.
oh, Jen, that's so 2024.
I know. I know. How dare I? But it's just, that mindset of curiosity and experimenting. And sometimes you think something's going to create efficiency and it actually takes more time. And sometimes you think something's going to, unlock some creativity for you, and it actually does. And I think, where AI is the most valuable for me as a marketer is in just kind of surfacing up what's happening on the internet.
Mm.
So we didn't really talk too much about community, but I'm asking AI on a weekly basis what conversations are surfacing to the top in very specific Reddit groups, right?
Yeah.
And that's interesting to me.
Well, I mean, I think I think it is appropriate to at least touch on this idea. And one of the things that I've learned is that I can't stay relevant on my own. I
Mm,
need help. So I have a marketing community called Rise. It's like marketing people from all around the world. And so they're seeing things and they're experimenting with things and they're learning things. And it just helps me because it's like they're kind of vetting the AI world for me, saying, yeah, and usually we're like a week ahead of the curve. So like when the whole Claude bot thing came out,
yeah.
like someone said, "Hey, has anybody heard about this?" And then a week later, it was like at the top of the news. So I think finding a community is really essential in the world like this, because you can't really be halfway relevant, and the job is too big to do on your own. So find a group of people who can help you.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. Well, on that note, thank you for being part of my community here and all of our listeners, and for taking the time out to come and talk about this with us today. I really appreciate it. Congrats on the book. Where can people find your book?
Well, all my books are available on Amazon. I think today we talked about Audacious, how humans win in an AI marketing world. We talked about how AI changes your customers. And I guess we touched on community too. And I wrote a pretty popular book on community called Belonging to the Brand. So those are the three books we talked about today. You can find all my work at my website, which is easy to remember, businessesgrow.com, because nobody can remember how to spell Schaefer, but you can probably remember Businesses Grow. And you can
Smart
find
marketing.
my blog. Yeah. You can find my blog. You can find my books. You can find all my social media connections there. And I'd love to hear from you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mark, for being on the show today.
You're welcome. Thanks for the great questions. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for listening in. Make sure you're following Mark on LinkedIn. Check out his website, businessesgrow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to Marketing Demystified wherever you get your podcasts, and join us next time for more conversations